Hey guys, welcome to my full series review for Scott Pilgrim. Now this marks a very special milestone for me because it is actually the very first time that I am reviewing a Western comic. Now I review manga, which of course is a comic from Japan. However, Scott Pilgrim is a bit different. It was actually made in Canada. So myself, being used to reading manga all the time, was very shocked when I opened up Scott Pilgrim and it told me that I was reading in the wrong direction. Because apparently you actually have to read these books from left to right. I know it's a really crazy concept, but once you get the hang of it, it's perfectly fine. So Scott Pilgrim is a Canadian graphic novel series created by Brian O'Malley. The entire series consists of 6 graphic novels that were published from 2004 to 2010. Our story begins in Toronto and follows our protagonist, unemployed 23-year-old Scott Pilgrim. Now, Scott Pilgrim is a member of the band Sex Bomb, along with his college friend Stephen Stills and his ex-high school girlfriend Kimberly Pine. And being unemployed, he lives in a hole in the ground with his cool gay roommate Wallace Wells, who pretty much owns everything. And I mean, this place is really garbage. There's only one room and they have to share a bed. Now one night, Scott has a dream about a girl he has never seen before who has hair like this. Now one day at the library, he actually sees this girl, confirming her existence. He then quickly becomes obsessed with finding out who she is, and after stalking her at a party, he finds out that her name is Ramona Flowers. She is an Amazon delivery girl who recently moved to Canada from the far-off land of the United States. And Scott, being the badass he is, orders a package from Amazon. He meets Ramona and he asks her out on a date. Because wouldn't you know it, he has fallen in love with Ramona. However, there is one problem. Actually 2 problems, but the first problem is made very apparent from the very first panel of this series. Scott Pilgrim is dating a high schooler. So at the beginning of this series, Scott Pilgrim is dating Knives Chow, a 17-year-old Chinese-Canadian girl who of course is a high schooler. All of his friends think he is crazy and he really doesn't know if he actually likes Knives or not. He is just doing this because, he has nothing better to do. He's unemployed and he has had a few share of rocky relationships in the past that he would rather forget about. The thing about Knives though is that she is a self-proclaimed Scottaholic, and she's pretty crazy. So now Scott is going to have to figure out a way to deal with Knives so he can date Ramona. However, let's discuss that second problem. So one night when Sex Bomb is performing, they get attacked by a man known as Matthew Patel. Now this guy is very powerful. He has an army of hipster demon chicks and he can throw fireballs. However, he picked a fight with the wrong Canadian. Because unfortunately for Matthew, Scott Pilgrim is the best fighter in Ontario. Now this man seemed to have a connection with Ramona, so after dealing with him, Scott confronts her about it. So it turns out that all of the people that Ramona has dated in the past have formed the League of Ramona's Evil Exes. And if Scott wants to continue dating Ramona, he is going to have to defeat 7 of her evil ex-boyfriends. 7 evil exes. And thus begins the crazy saga of Scott Pilgrim. Alright, so I'm not really going to take this review as seriously as I do my other ones because honestly I have nothing bad to say about Scott Pilgrim at all. It's absolutely wonderful. Okay, this is a romantic comedy action series. It is so amazing. And just from the first couple of pages, you can tell that this series is amazing. Brian O'Malley is on point. He is such a good comedic writer. I mean, the way these characters talk, all the situations that happen are just absolutely hilarious. There's a lot of fourth wall breaks, there's a lot of references to, anime and video games and all this awesome stuff. And while the story itself is completely outrageous, it's so much fun. It's easy to follow. A lot of interesting things keep happening to keep the plot going, and oh my god, I just enjoy every second of reading this series. And also, despite this being a really crazy series, it's also really relatable. A lot of the things that happen in this series are common situations, and the characters, they feel very real despite the crazy circumstances. The real thing that drives this series forward though are the characters. Oh my god. These are the greatest characters. I mean, from our protagonist, Scott Pilgrim, who is wonderful, to all of his douchebag friends, to, you know, to Ramona, to Knives, all the evil exes, all the antagonists, especially the final one. They're just super memorable. I mean, I can remember everything about these characters. I can quote them, and I only read the series once. I mean, that's how good it is. Although, if I had to pick a favorite character, it would have to be Wallace Wells. I mean, like, how can you not love Wallace? Also, the art is on point. It has a very distinct style. It looks really awesome. All of the action scenes look super, super good. And these action scenes were definitely inspired by manga, which is one of the reasons I love this series so much. You know, they're just so awesome. And a ton of video game references. Like, I mean, when the enemies get defeated, they turn into coins. That is just genius. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, you should go and buy Scott Pilgrim. You should read it, like, as soon as you possibly can. I know this wasn't a very serious video, I didn't go into much detail, but I don't even know what else to say, other than go out and read it. And I mean, if this were a manga series, this would, without a doubt, be number 1 on my top 10 list. I mean, oh my god. So yeah, I'm gonna give this series 10 video game references out of 5. It is pretty much the greatest thing you can ever read, and yeah, you should buy it immediately. And if you do want to buy Scott Pilgrim, which you should do as soon as you finish this video, all 6 volumes are available. They're in print. You can go out to pretty much any store and buy them. You can get the original black and white versions. You can get a box set which has all 6 of them in it for a discounted price. And you can get, while they are more expensive, they're pretty much the definitive way of reading Scott Pilgrim, the color editions. I really wish I owned these color editions because they are absolutely amazing, and I really do think they are worth a double price. However, you know, if you do want to save a bit more money, then, I mean, the black and white editions are also perfect. There's also one more thing I wanted to talk about. The movie. So this is Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. The movie that came out around the same time that the series ended. Now, despite only recently reading the comics, this movie has been a part of my life for a long time. I got this DVD on my 13th birthday, and I watched the movie 3 times that day. I fell in love with it. I have no idea why it took me so long to read the comics. I have no idea. And I really, really wish I had read them sooner, but my god, this movie it's wonderful. I mean, Michael Cera was an amazing casting choice for Scott Pilgrim, and this movie is directed by Edgar Wright. Edgar Wright is my favorite director. He directed the Cornetto trilogy, which are my favorite movies. This is a movie based off of my favorite comic book series, directed by my favorite director. This is pretty much as perfect as you can get. And while it is an adaptation of the entire series, and of course they can't fit 6 volumes of stuff into one movie, for a 2-hour movie, it does a phenomenal job of adapting this series. Like, they pretty much did the best possible job they could have, and I would recommend this movie just as much as the comic book series. Masterpiece. So that was my incredibly hype review for Scott Pilgrim, in which I did not say a single negative thing about it. Looks like someone's got some competition there. But don't worry, because next time I will be back with a series that I will criticize a good bit, so yeah. Until then, thank you guys so much for watching. You can discuss this video in the comments below, and I will see you in my next full series review for Assassination Classroom.
You won't know what's hit you in the slightest.
This guy's good.
Me and my fireballs, my demon hipster chicks.
Tell me, Maddie.
I'm